So speaking of superheroes, let's jump into another topic. We're going to jump over to the game universe. We're going to talk about Insomniac's Wolverine, or rather Marvel's Wolverine, whatever it's called. Now, if you don't know, there was a data breach. There was a... What do you want to call it? It's disgusting is what it was. Yeah, ransomware breach, including information from Insomniac about the Wolverine game, the alpha for it, future projects, unfortunately some information from employees, stuff like that. Someone hacked it, got it, wanted money for it, nothing happened, and they let all this information out. We're going to be talking about that. I'm not going to be talking full details, but just in case, blanket statement. If anybody doesn't want to know my thoughts or if you don't want to know anything about Wolverine, like I said, I'm not diving into what actually was released. I'm just speculating and all that jazz. But if you don't want any inkling of anything, you can skip this topic. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Because we will be talking about one element, I believe, of that leak. So just want to give everybody a fair warning. But first things first, stupid, disgusting, don't do this kind of stuff. We've had this happen a few times. GTA 6 had it happen. Obviously, Wolverine had it happen. Or Insomniac had it happen. I believe there's two other bigger studios that happened to as well. People just stop being dumb. All right, that's all I gotta say about that. So, what are my hopes for this Wolverine game? Once again, like I said, I haven't watched anything. I know there's alpha footage out there and information rolling around. I'm not going to look at it. I don't care to look at it. I would rather go into this as fresh as a daisy and have some fun with it. I'm just want to talk about, what I want to see from this game. And then we'll talk about one thing from the leak that we did learn. So the thing that we did learn is that Insomniac is making Marvel games for a little while, including more of the X-Men. Okay, get that out of the way. We'll talk about it later. So the Wolverine game. What do I want to see from the Wolverine game? So the Spider-Man games have absolutely crushed it. I've enjoyed them wholeheartedly. If you guys listened to last week's episode of the podcast, I think I picked Spider-Man 2 as my game of the year. Absolutely loved playing it on stream. Had a great time with it. Side quest stuff with the villains, the main villains, the two that they had, and how things flowed in the gameplay. Absolutely loved it. Enjoyed every second of it. With Wolverine, it's going to be a little different tale. Not that I'm not going to enjoy it, but obviously some things are going to be different in comparison to a Spider-Man. And number one is going to be mobility. Mobility is going to be a lot different just because, well, you're Wolverine. Unless you're hopping into cars, you're not going anywhere super duper fast. And that is one thing I'm curious about of how they're going to handle. Like, is it just going to be you are at ground level? Because obviously Spider-Man has the verticality of New York City as what am I trying to say? At his disposal. Whether it's Peter, whether it's Miles. But Wolverine doesn't necessarily have that. Could he climb with the claws? Sure. Do I think they're going to add that? No. Have you jumping off buildings, all that jazz with this healing factor? I don't think so. So I think it's going to be definitely more grounded. But what does that mean in terms of scale of the city? Are you going to have, if it is in New York, are you going to have it be the same scale? And are you going to have that available to the players? Because considering how much content Insomniac puts in these games, you have obviously your main quest lines, but then you have your plethora of side content, whether it's villains, random things, citizens you're helping, whatever it may be. I'm curious how the scale is going to be brought in or what's going to be done about it once we get to this game. Like I said, if it's going to be something where we can use like Logan's motorcycle to get around, okay, that's a little different where we could keep the scale as is. It's just a matter of keeping that engaging enough to the players that we're fine doing that. I'm going off a lot of assumptions here with saying it's going to be in New York, so for those of you listening, if you're like, oh, they said it's going to be here, whoops, my bad. It's just, like I said, you got to make it engaging enough, at least with the swinging mechanic for both Peter and Miles. we've elevated on that or evolved from it with Spider-Man 1 into Miles Morales into Spider-Man 2. You know, you have the swinging mechanics, which Insomniac nailed, and Spider-Man games have been doing a very good job of over the years, except for Marvel's Avengers. Oops. And we've evolved on that with Miles even having in his game getting the addition of using the Venom powers to boost or jump higher. With Spider-Man 2, we got obviously the ability to use both Spider-Man, but also you had the wingsuit and the wind tunnels that you could use to your availability to get around faster and do different things and maneuver better. Obviously with Wolverine, if you do the motorcycle route, how is that going to be fun and engaging for a player that's going to want to, or not want to do that, but rather needs to do it to get from point to point, mission to mission, if they are doing an open world game? I would assume, just because that's all we can go off of with their other Marvel projects. If they're going to do that, how do they make that fun? How do they make that engaging? If it's just going to be chapter-based, mission-based, whatever, and you're hopping from point to point with Logan, hey, you don't have to worry about that. But that's something to think about. I think combat's going to be great, getting more in your face, getting more violent with the claws. I think is going to be good. Obviously, you won't have the acrobatics that the Spider-Man games do have, but I think that's going to be fun for feeling very visceral, and like the punches are going to hit, and they're going to hit hard. And I think that's going to be fun to take the more flashy side of Spider-Man, take the inspirations from Batman's Arkham, and make something even more heavy. Just seems like the best word right now. Heavy, solid in its hits and strikes and throws, grapples, whatever you want to call it. That's going to feel fun, and like you're really punishing the bad guys, whether it's maybe Sentinels, if they include those, or it's your everyday people or bad guys, and then eventually whatever villains we're going to run into with Wolverine. I think that's going to be great, and it's going to be fun to see the evolution of changing that core gameplay mechanic, or adapting it rather, to fit a whole different new character with a different moveset and a different fighting style. They've only had the one initial trailer, so I can't think of any confirmed villains. We've only had that bar scene. I'm curious who Wolverine's going to be fighting. Is it going to be a Sabretooth that's going to be your main villain? Or are they going to jump the gun and go right to like a big bad of a Magneto? I don't think they would go Magneto. I think they would save that for more of a full X-Men game. But I'm curious, and granted this also kind of goes into my grassroots comic knowledge, of who they would go with that feels like enough of a threat or a higher up threat that they could base an entire game around. Now, Insomniac has done the kind of two villain arc or build, once again, Spider-Man games. Excuse me. With the first one being Mr. Negative and Dr. Octopus, with Miles being the Prowler and the Tinkerer, and then with Spider-Man 2 being Kraven and Venom, and eventually what Spider-Man 3 will be. If you've seen it, you've seen it, the end credits. I'll just leave it at that. They likes to stick with their twos. So I don't know, do they keep the pattern with Wolverine where they do twos of two main baddies, or do they mix it up? But I'm trying to think of who would be big enough bad for Wolverine specifically to do either the two or the one method. Like I said, Sabretooth and Magneto seem to be my biggest, or the biggest names calling out to me. But do you do a Mr. Sinister, potentially? You know, they did him for the Deadpool game back in the day. I don't know if you would do I'm trying to think of the guy from the X-Men Origins film, the guy who experimented on him. I don't think they would do that, just because this seems like he's pretty established, but what do I know? So that'll be interesting to see who actually makes the appearance here. Stryker's the guy's name, as those baddies. In terms of side quests, this is where we could have fun with it. And Spider-Man 2 definitely had a lot of fun with this, with, callbacks to the first game, new characters, smaller villains, builds, stuff like that. We built a lot of villains in Spider-Man 2. And you could have the freedom here, too, with X-Men to continue doing that, whether it's early Sentinel stuff, like early designs or builds. You could do, different members of the Brotherhood of Mutants here, especially if you do Magneto as a big bad, and then kind of give these side quests, like Toad has one, Sabretooth has one, Mystique has one, I don't know, fuck it, Omega Red has one, throw these people in there. You could give them each their own small arc or story or builds or teases. So you could go from there. And then also side quests and content, you could tease other X-Men. We have in New York City with Spider-Man, you get a lot of reference to other heroes. You have Avengers Tower. You have the new Fantastic Tower from Kingpin's former lair. You have, Murdoch, Matt Murdock, his lawyer offices. You have Iron Fist's place. You have all these things. You have Artemis yelling in the corner. So with those, you could tease a lot of different characters of the X-Men, even just popping in or needing assistance as well. And speaking of the X-Men, let's talk about the X-Men game. So I think they confirmed that they're working on an X-Men game. I don't know what you do here. You have Spider-Man 2. Sorry, I know I'm talking about it a lot just because of the recency. You gave us the ability to play as both Miles and Peter here, right? With the X-Men, at least their roster, it's a lot bigger, and the powers are a lot different than, Miles just has Venom powers, and Peter has, his suit, and then eventually the Venom symbiote suit. There's a lot more powers and movesets here. You can't just do a simple, or it might not be as simple as those two. So I'm curious if they're gonna, if and when they do that game, is it just gonna be you play as Wolverine with a la a Miles in this game? Every once in a while, a different X-Men will swoop in and help you out, and you don't actually play as them. Or, and this would be very cool, would they do an X-Men Legends type Ultimate Alliance type game? X-Men Legends or Ultimate Alliance type game with this? Not necessarily 4 at a time, would be great. I don't know if the power of next gen has that, where you could have either 4-player co-op or just 4 heroes you could bump to at any point. Do that at the same time, or at least give us a depth roster where we could switch. Like, I want to play Wolverine now. I want to play Cyclops. I want to play Storm. I want to play Jean Grey. I want to play Nightcrawler. Like, if you had the ability to swap your characters and take them through this story and this narrative, that would be absolutely insane. That would also help with the verticality. I'm going to talk about a more kid-friendly game. We're going to talk about the Lego games, like the Marvel superheroes and Lego Avengers and stuff like that. Like, if you want to run around as Wolverine, you could run around the whole city like that. Or if you want to, you could be Thor. I know he's not an X-Men, but you could be these flying heroes. You could be Hulk, where you can jump really, really far. You could be a speedster where you could run through. Like, if they're going to continue with the New York open world, at least with that depth or that roster of characters that you could pick and choose from, that could help that mobility. And also keeps it fun and unique because different characters do different things. Maybe I want to be with Wolverine just running across the street, or getting on the motorcycle and doing the car stuff. Cyclops with the X-Jet, or you have Storm where you're just flying around. Or if we want to get really crazy, I talked about him earlier, Nightcrawler just teleporting around. Let's get crazy. I'm really interested to see what they do with that one. And that one, obviously, like Wolverine, I believe they said is 2025 now. Sad face, tear, but that's fine. Take your time, make it good. At this point, that X-Men game's not coming out for a while. So we got time. I'm just curious how they're going to pull it off. Like, what they're going to actually do. Like I said, is it going to be a one hero? Is it going to be the roster? Whatever it is going to be. And is it even going to be open world? Are we going to have that freedom to jump around, to do what we want, whatever it is? Or is it going to be more linear? Man, Artemis really has a lot of thoughts on this. But yeah, I know the footage is out there. If you've seen it, great. Keep it to yourself. If you haven't seen it, just be careful. I'm excited to see more of this when the team is ready to put this out here or out there. Oh my God, I'm looking at it right here. Apparently, well, this could also just be speculation. The genre in here says open world action adventure, non-linear gameplay. That could just be the internet being the internet. I don't know. Let me look at their official page, see if they've said anything. My God, dude, shush. Yeah, it just says development on their main site. It doesn't say really anything. So we'll have to see as information gets out there, what they're going to tell us, all that jazz. But everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, a.k.a. Enigma9011. You can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live. You join on the fun and conversation. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services, or it drops topic by topic and is one big video in MP3 the very next week. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, likes, subscriptions, shares, views, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Thanks for hanging out today, guys, for the short and sweet one. We got a long one last week. Hope you guys enjoyed our Game of the Year discussion and what we're looking forward to in 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode with the superhero talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.